My buddy Kevin just dropped $400 on a course called Day Trading Mastery, 6 figures from your phone. The same week, Sarah spent $400 doing absolutely nothing. 30 years from now, Sarah is going to be exactly $760,000 richer than Kevin. The strategy that beats him isn't a strategy, it's a checkbox. You tick it once at 11 p.m. in your pajamas, and nobody is going to make a YouTube ad about it because there's no money in selling you a checkbox. $10,000 to $500,000. That's a 50 times return. The math behind it is so boring. The entire finance industry has built itself around hiding it from you. I'm Max. I've spent the last decade watching smart people pay strangers in nice suits to underperform a fund a 19-year-old can buy in 4 minutes from a parking lot. Hit subscribe if watching the math eat people's egos is your kind of entertainment. 3 things ahead. The exact 3-step setup that has quietly beaten 65% of professional fund managers. The ones managing literal billions. The one specific year, usually somewhere between year 9 and 11, where most people quit roughly 12 months before the math turns genuinely violent in their favor. And the $447,000 lifestyle adjustment that costs less per month than what you currently spend on DoorDash. Let me show you. Quick math, then we name names. There's a finance shortcut called the Rule of 72. You take 72, divide it by your annual return, and that's roughly how many years it takes your money to double. The S&P 500, the big boring index of the 500 largest American companies, has returned about 10.1% a year over the last 30 years. Plug it in. Your money doubles every 7 years and change. To turn $10,000 into $500,000, you need about 6 doublings. That's 41 years. Now I can see your face. 41 years is not a strategy. That's a sentence. By the time the math works, you're 65, wondering if you can still chew solid food. Here's the part nobody tells you. 41 years is the do-nothing path. That's if you make one $10,000 deposit and then forget your password for 4 decades. The math gets dramatically less depressing the second you add monthly contributions, because contributions don't add to your account, they multiply with it. 3 steps. The entire strategy. 1. Open a brokerage account at Vanguard, Fidelity, or Schwab. $0 to open. 4 minutes on your phone in your pajamas. 2. Buy a total stock market index fund. The 2 big ones are VTI from Vanguard and VOO, which is Vanguard's S&P 500 fund. They charge 0.03%. That's $3 a year for every $10,000 invested, less than a single oat milk latte. And it gets you a slice of basically every major American company in existence. 3. Set up an automatic monthly transfer. Every payday, money moves from checking to brokerage. The brokerage automatically buys the fund. You don't think about it. You don't time it. You don't open the app at 11 p.m. when CNBC has someone in a tie screaming about Iran. That is the entire lazy method. You are now an investor. Congratulations. The army of PhDs and Bloomberg terminals you were supposed to be intimidated by, you just bypass them with a tap. Now, why does this absurdly simple thing demolish almost everything else? There's a report called SPIVA, published twice a year by S&P Dow Jones. They track how professional fund managers, the ones in offices in Midtown with the desks that adjust electronically, perform versus just buying the index. Latest report, 65% of large-cap professional fund managers underperformed the S&P 500 in 2024. Stretch the window to 15 years and 0 out of 22 fund categories had a majority of managers beat the index. 0. None. The professionals, the ones with PhDs and entire research departments, cannot beat the thing you can buy on your phone for $3 a year. And here's the kicker. In 2008, Warren Buffett bet $1 million actual dollars that a plain index fund would beat a hand-picked basket of elite hedge funds over 10 years. He won. The index returned 126%. The hedge funds returned 36%. He gave the winnings to charity. His official public advice to his own wife for when he dies? Buy a low-cost index fund and stop trying to be clever. The smartest investor on planet Earth tells his widow to do exactly what I just told you. That should land harder than it does. And I have to be honest with you about something, because if I don't, I'm just another guy telling you to do something I'd never actually do myself. I used to be that bro. The I have a strategy bro. In 2017, I spent 6 months trying to day trade biotech stocks because someone in a Discord server told me about a clinical trial. I lost $11,000 and learned the only people consistently making money in that Discord were the ones running the Discord. I have lived that exact lesson the expensive way. So when I tell you the lazy method works, I'm not telling you because it sounds good on YouTube. I'm telling you because I tried to be smart and got financially humbled by a guy in the Discord whose username was, I am not kidding, Brandon Rips Faces 20 017. Run the math, not the Discord. Okay, you're sold on the strategy. Now I have to ruin it for you, because if I stop here, you'll go open the account this weekend and absolutely sabotage yourself inside 18 months. Statistically, and I mean this, that is what happens. There's a research firm called Dalbar that has run the same study for 30 years. They look at what actual investors earn in their accounts versus what the market itself earned. In 2024, the S&P returned 25%. The average equity fund investor earned 16.5%. That's an 8.5-point gap. That's not a rounding error. Over 30 years, that gap turns a 9.6% market return into a 6.8% investor return. On a starting $100,000, that 1 point of behavior compounds into roughly $864,000 of wealth that just evaporated. That is a paid-off house. Gone from behavior. Quick, type the dollar amount you currently have invested in the comments. Just the number. $0, $500, $50,000, whatever. No judgment. I want to see what this audience is actually working with. And I have a theory about the spread. How do investors burn that gap? Two ways. They panic sell during crashes, and they try to time the market. Here's the number that should make you uncomfortable. If you'd invested in the S&P 500 for the last 30 years and missed just the 10 best days, your return is cut roughly in half. Miss the best 30 days, your return drops by 84%. And 76% of those best days happen during a bear market or in the first 2 months of a new bull market. Translation: the days that make you rich happen exactly when everyone is convinced the world is ending and they should sell, which, surprise, is exactly when most people sell. The lazy method works only if you actually do nothing, which sounds easy. It is the single hardest thing about it. The second silent killer is fees. And this one I have a personal vendetta about. Two people, both have $1 million invested. Both earn 7% a year. Same money, same return. Person A pays 0.03% in fund fees. Person B pays 1% to a financial advisor. 30 years later, Person A has $7.6 million. Person B has $5.7 million. A 1% fee, a number so small it feels rude to even complain about, quietly siphoned off roughly $1.9 million. The bank is not your friend. The advisor is not your friend. The 1% is not nothing. The 1% is a paid-off house, plus another one, plus the boat you'd actually buy if you bought boats. And here's the part the industry does not want you to internalize. The lazy index fund charges 0.03%. The expensive actively managed fund charges 1%. The actively managed fund underperforms. You are paying more money for a worse product. There is no version of that math that works for anyone except the person collecting the fee. Fees are the only part of investing that's guaranteed. Returns are uncertain. Fees are 100% certain. Minimize the certain bad thing. Now, the real lever, it's not your return, it's your contribution. Take that $10,000. Add $200 a month at 8%. After 30 years, you're at about $399,000. Bump it to $500 a month, you're at $846,000. Bump it to $1,000 a month, $1.6 million. Going from $200 to $500 is an extra $300 a month. That's a streaming bundle and a takeout habit. That single decision adds $447,000 to your future net worth. That's the $447,000 number from the start. The DoorDash adjustment. Found it. And remember Sarah from the start of this video? She started with $10,000 and $400 a month. Year 5, she's at $44,000. She wants to quit. Compounding feels broken. Year 9, she's at $96,000. Year 10, $112,000. And right here, at year 10, something flips. Sarah's portfolio earns roughly $9,000 that year from compounding alone. Sarah contributed $4,800. For the first time, the market did more work than she did. Year 20, $311,000. Year 30, $760,000. Sarah is a marketing coordinator who drives a Honda Civic. The math just made her wealthy. That moment around year 10 is the inflection point. That is the lazy method earning its name. And it is genuinely tragic how many people quit 1 or 2 years before it happens. Because year 9 still feels like nothing. And I can hear some of you doing the mental math at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday. I don't have $400 a month. I don't have $200. Rent went up again. My car needs brakes. I see you. That feeling is real. It is also exactly what the system wants you to feel. Give up before you start, because $50 doesn't feel like enough. Here's the truth. $50 a month at 8% for 30 years is $74,000. $100 a month is $148,000. The lazy method does not require you to be rich. It requires you to start. Future, you doesn't care whether it was $50 or $500. Future, you cares whether you started. Quick story, because this is the entire video in human form. A guy named Ronald Reed, gas station attendant in Vermont for 25 years, then a janitor at JCPenney for another 17. Drove a used Toyota Yaris, chopped his own firewood, wore a flannel jacket held together with safety pins because the buttons had fallen off and he didn't see a reason to replace them. People in his town thought he was poor. Ronald Reed died in 2014 at 92 with an estate worth roughly $8 million. He left $4.8 million to the local hospital and $1.2 million to the public library. He bought boring blue-chip dividend stocks, Procter & Gamble, Johnson & Johnson, Colgate. He held them for decades. He reinvested every dividend. He never sold. A janitor in a safety pin flannel outinvested almost every hedge fund manager of his generation by doing absolutely nothing exciting for 60 straight years. One reality check before I let you go, because pretending the future looks like the past is how people get hurt. As of right now, May 2026, the S&P 500 is sitting around 7,400, all-time high. The Shiller-Cape ratio, which measures how expensive stocks are versus long-term earnings, is at roughly 40. Historical average is 17. The only times in history it's been this high were 1929 and 1999. You know how those ended. The next decade may not look like the last one. Plan with 7 to 8% as your central case, not 10. And when the next crash happens, and at this valuation, it will. That is exactly when the lazy method needs you to keep buying. Especially then, because that is when shares are on sale. Remember Kevin from the start? The one who dropped $400 on day trading mastery? Kevin spends the next 5 years buying courses, joining discords, screenshotting his account on the green days, deleting it on the red ones. Sarah opens her brokerage app once a quarter to make sure the auto transfer didn't break. 30 years from now, Sarah owns her house, her time, and a stock portfolio that pays her more per year than Kevin makes at his W-2. Kevin owns a slightly used Tesla and a folder of PDF certificates of completion. You're going to be 65 either way. The only question is whether the version of you sitting there has $760,000 or whatever's left after another 30 years of trying to be clever. 2 things in the comments before you go. First, tell me what you currently invest per month. Just the number. $0, $50, $500, $5,000, whatever it actually is. I want to see this spread because the gap between what people invest and what they think they invest is wild. Second, and I want you to be honest, what's the dumbest financial strategy you ever paid for? Of course, Discord, NFT, your cousin's startup, whatever it was. I'll start. I paid $400 in 2017 for a biotech catalyst newsletter that told me to buy a stock the day before it dropped 80%. Still mad about it. I read every comment, every single one. The patterns in those replies are the actual reason this channel exists. Don't be Kevin.